Commander Jake Harrison stood in the massive chambers of the Galactic Council on Nexus Prime. The room stretched out before him like a giant bowl made of glowing crystal. Thousands of alien beings filled the curved seats that rose up toward the ceiling. Some looked like walking rocks with bright gems for eyes. Others floated in glass tanks filled with strange colored gas. Many had shapes that hurt his human brain to look at for too long. Jake wore his best dress uniform with the blue and gold colors of Earth. Next to him stood Ambassador Lisa Martinez in her formal diplomatic robes. They had traveled 3 months through space to reach this place. Today would decide if humanity could join the Galactic Federation or remain alone in the dark between the stars. Lisa stepped forward to the speaking platform in the center of the chamber. Her voice carried clearly through the translation devices that turned her words into thousands of different alien languages. She spoke about Earth and its people. She told them about human science that had cured diseases and built cities among the clouds. She described human soldiers who had kept peace on distant worlds when other species could not stop fighting. She showed them art and music that humans had created to bring beauty to the universe. The alien council members listened, but their faces showed no emotion that Jake could read. The Vorthak looked like living mountains of purple crystal. When they spoke, their voices sounded like breaking glass. The Etherians had no solid bodies at all, but lived as thinking clouds of blue gas inside clear containers. The Aquari breathed water instead of air and had skin like fish scales that changed color with their moods. Council Speaker Zethran of the Vorthak rose from his crystal throne. His massive form caught the light from the chamber and threw rainbow patterns on the walls. When he spoke, his voice boomed through the room like thunder rolling across mountains. The species called humans has presented their case to this council, Zethran said. We have watched them for 50 of their years since they first left their homeworld. We have seen their wars and their peace. We have studied their nature and their actions. Jake felt his heart beating faster. This was the moment they had worked toward for decades. Earth had sent its best minds and bravest explorers to prove that humans deserved a place among the stars. They had shared their technology and culture with any alien species willing to listen. They had fought beside Federation forces against pirates and rebels. They had earned this chance. The Galactic Federation has existed for 10,000 years, Zethran continued. In that time we have brought order to chaos and peace to war. We have learned that some species can grow beyond their violent nature, while others cannot. The humans show great promise in science and art, but they also show great danger in their need for conflict. Lisa stepped closer to the speaking platform. Honored speaker, humanity has learned from its mistakes. Our wars taught us the value of peace. Our struggles made us strong enough to protect others. We offer the Federation our knowledge and our strength. Other council members began to speak. The Etherian delegate Whisper of Storms filled her gas container with angry red clouds. These humans fight first and ask questions later. They solve problems with weapons when wisdom would serve better. They are too young and too violent for our ancient civilization. An Aquari representative named Deep Current changed his scales to dark blue patterns that meant disagreement. The humans helped us stop the Raider Wars in the Kepler sector. Without their military knowledge, many worlds would have fallen to chaos. They saved millions of lives. The debate went on for hours. Jake listened as species after species spoke for or against humanity. Most of the older races opposed letting Earth join. They called humans dangerous and unpredictable. They said human emotions made them unfit for the careful balance that kept peace in the galaxy. A few younger species spoke in favor of humanity. They had worked with human explorers and soldiers. They had seen how humans could find new solutions to old problems. They praised human creativity and determination, but their voices were few against the ancient powers that controlled the council. Finally, Zethran called for the vote. Lights appeared above each council member's seat. Green meant yes and red meant no. Jake watched as thousands of lights flickered on across the chamber. His heart sank as he saw mostly red filling the room like drops of blood against the crystal walls. The final count appeared on screens throughout the chamber. 847 votes against. Only 3 votes in favor. Humanity had been rejected by the largest margin in Federation history. The Council has spoken, Zethran announced. The species known as humans will not be granted membership in the Galactic Federation. Furthermore, we place their home system under quarantine. No Federation ship may enter Sol space and no human ship may leave it. This judgment will remain until humanity proves it can live in peace. Lisa's face went pale, but she kept her voice steady. This is a mistake that will cost more than you know. When the galaxy needs Earth's help, you will remember this day." Zethran's crystal form sparkled with what might have been amusement. Young species always believe they are more important than they are. The galaxy has survived for billions of years without humanity. It will continue long after your sun burns out. Jake helped Lisa gather their documents and data files. As they walked toward the exit, other alien delegates avoided looking at them. Some seemed embarrassed by the harsh rejection. Others appeared satisfied that the dangerous humans had been put in their place. The walk back to their ship felt longer than the journey to Nexus Prime. The UES Defiance waited for them in the orbital docking station. Captain Ryan Cole met them at the airlock with a grim expression on his weathered face. "How bad is it?" Ryan asked as they entered the ship. "Complete rejection," Lisa said. "They've quarantined the entire Sol system. No trade, no communication, no contact of any kind." Ryan nodded slowly. "Maybe that's for the best. I've got some news that changes everything anyway." Our long-range sensors picked up massive energy readings from the galactic rim. Something big is coming and it doesn't look friendly. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. As their ship undocked from Nexus Prime and began the long journey back to Earth, he wondered if the Council had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. Whatever was coming from the dark between galaxies would find a divided galaxy instead of a united one. The aliens had rejected humanity's offer of friendship and alliance. Soon they might discover that humanity's friendship was exactly what they needed to survive. 3 months had passed since the Galactic Council rejected Earth and sealed the Sol system behind an energy barrier. On the Federation border world, strange reports came in daily. Mining stations went silent without warning. Trade ships disappeared between star systems. Entire colonies stopped answering communication calls. Dr. Amy Foster sat in her laboratory on Earth, studying the few data fragments that had reached them through secret channels. The information came from Federation defectors who disagreed with the quarantine. What she saw in the data made her hands shake as she worked. The first attack had happened at Rim Station 7 on the galaxy's outer edge. The automated defense systems recorded everything before they were destroyed. Amy watched the footage on her screen and felt her blood turn cold. Ships appeared from nowhere with hulls that looked like black metal, grown into impossible geometric shapes. They moved without visible engines and fired weapons that tore matter apart at the atomic level. Amy called up more files on her computer. The attacking ships showed no interest in conquest or communication. They simply consumed everything in their path. Planets, moons, asteroids, even the stars themselves were somehow drained of all matter and energy. Where thriving solar systems had existed, only empty space remained. "Computer, analyze the ship designs," Amy said to her research system. The artificial intelligence processed the data for several minutes before responding. "Ship architecture shows no similarity to any known Federation technology. Hull composition appears to be programmable matter that can reshape itself. Energy signatures suggest power sources beyond current Federation understanding." Amy leaned back in her chair and rubbed her tired eyes. She had been working for days trying to understand what the galaxy was facing. The evidence pointed to something that shouldn't exist. A species with technology so advanced that it could consume entire star systems like a person eating fruit. On the other side of Earth, General Peter Kane stood in the war room beneath the North American Defense Command. Banks of screens showed the deployment of human forces throughout the Sol system. Even under quarantine, Earth was not sitting idle. "Report," Kane said to Admiral Susan Blake, who had just entered the room. Susan pulled up a holographic display showing the solar system. "We've completed the first phase of Operation Deep Cache. Supply bases are hidden in asteroid fields beyond Neptune's orbit. If the quarantine falls, we'll have weapons and equipment staged where we need them." Kane nodded approvingly. "What about the new weapons systems?" "The kinetic bombardment platforms are online," Susan replied. "Railgun batteries on Luna can hit targets anywhere in the inner system. The nuclear torpedo production lines are at full capacity. We're also working on something new based on Dr. Foster's analysis of the alien threat." Kane studied the deployment charts with a soldier's eye for detail. Humanity had spent the 3 months of quarantine preparing for war. While the Federation argued about the alien threat, Earth had quietly built up its defenses. Hidden factories produced weapons and ships. Secret research projects developed new technologies based on human military doctrine. The communication alert sounded throughout the command center. Kane activated the main screen and saw the face of Captain Ryan Cole appearing from the bridge of his patrol ship near the edge of the solar system. "General, we're detecting massive Federation fleet movements toward the rim sectors," Ryan reported. "Looks like they're finally taking the alien threat seriously. My sources say they've lost over 20 star systems in the past week." Kane felt a grim satisfaction. The proud alien species who had rejected humanity were discovering that their ancient wisdom meant nothing against a truly alien enemy. Their defensive strategies had worked against other Federation species for thousands of years, but meant nothing against an enemy that fought by completely different rules far from Earth in the Beta Centauri system. Federation Admiral Kexteran of the Aquari species commanded a fleet of 2,000 ships. The largest military force in Federation history had assembled to stop the alien advance. Ships from dozens of species filled space around the system's main star. Crystal ships of the Vorthak floated like giant jewels. Sleek metal vessels of the Karani gleamed with silver hulls. Living ships grown by the biotech writhed through space like massive sea creatures. Kexteran had studied every piece of data about the alien attackers. His tactical computers had run millions of battle simulations. The aliens seemed to have three main advantages. Their ships were incredibly fast and could appear anywhere without warning. Their weapons could destroy any known shielding or armor. Most importantly, they showed no fear and never retreated even when facing overwhelming odds. The Federation plan was simple. Concentrate all available firepower at a single point and destroy the aliens through sheer numbers. Use the galaxy's most powerful weapons to overwhelm whatever defenses the alien ships possessed. Fight a traditional battle using traditional tactics that had worked for 10,000 years. The alien fleet arrived exactly as predicted. Sensors detected the dimensional distortion that announced their coming. Space twisted and bent as ships emerged from what appeared to be folded space. Kexteran counted 50 enemy vessels against his 2,000. The odds seemed favorable for the Federation. "All ships prepare for battle," Kexteran transmitted to his fleet. "Target the lead enemy vessels. Fire on my command." The Federation ships moved into attack formation with practiced precision. Energy weapons charged to full power. Missile tubes loaded with planet-killer warheads. Fighter squadrons launched from carrier ships. Everything that military science had learned over millennia prepared to strike. "Fire," Kexteran commanded. Space filled with deadly light as 2,000 ships fired at once. Energy beams that could melt asteroids lanced out toward the alien vessels. Nuclear missiles powerful enough to crack planets streaked through space. The combined firepower could have destroyed entire fleets of Federation ships. The alien vessels absorbed the attack without visible damage. Their dark hulls drank in the energy weapons like black holes swallowing light. The nuclear explosions washed over them without effect. Kexteran watched in growing horror as his most powerful weapons accomplished nothing. The aliens responded with their own attack. Beams of energy that seemed to unravel matter itself reached out to touch Federation ships. Where the beams struck, vessels simply ceased to exist, not destroyed or exploded, but removed from reality as if they had never been built. Within minutes, half of Kexterian's fleet was gone. The surviving ships tried to retreat but found their escape routes blocked. The alien vessels moved faster than thought itself and surrounded the Federation forces. The slaughter that followed lasted only an hour, but left the space around Beta Centauri filled with drifting debris. Kexteran's flagship was one of only 12 ships to escape the massacre. As they jumped to hyperspace, he sent a desperate message toward the galactic core. The Federation's greatest fleet had been destroyed with ease. Traditional military thinking was useless against this enemy. They needed new ideas and new tactics. On Earth, Dr. Amy Foster received copies of Kexterian's battle reports through the same secret channels that had brought her the original alien data. She studied the tactical information with growing excitement. Finally, she had enough pieces to see the pattern. "Computer, analyze the alien attack methods for weaknesses," she commanded. The artificial intelligence processed the battle data for hours before responding. Alien weapons appear to disrupt quantum bonds at the subatomic level. Their defensive systems adapt to incoming energy by redistributing force across their hull structure. However, analysis suggests vulnerability to disruption of their coordination systems. Amy smiled for the first time in weeks. The aliens were incredibly advanced, but they were not invincible. Their ships seemed to act with perfect coordination as if controlled by a single mind. That coordination was their greatest strength, but it might also be their greatest Weakness. She began working on a new project that would require resources Earth didn't officially have and weapons the Federation had never imagined. Humanity had three advantages the aliens didn't expect. Human technology was primitive enough to work in ways alien systems couldn't predict. Human tactics were chaotic enough to confuse enemies used to fighting orderly battles. Most importantly, humans were crazy enough to try things that made no logical sense. The galaxy had rejected Earth's offer of alliance. Soon the survivors would come begging for humanity's help whether they wanted to or not. The news of the Beta Centauri disaster spread through Federation space like wildfire. 2,000 ships destroyed by 50 alien vessels. The greatest military force in galactic history wiped out in less than 2 hours. Panic gripped the civilized worlds as refugees fled deeper into Federation territory. On the crystal world of Vorthak Prime, the ruling council met in emergency session. Ancient beings who had lived for thousands of years struggled to understand how their perfect civilization could face extinction. Their crystal cities had stood unchanged since before humans learned to make fire. Their technology had remained stable for millennia because it was already perfect. Now that perfection meant nothing against an enemy that played by different rules. The Etherian gas clouds on their homeworld swirled with colors that had never been seen before. Fear was a new emotion for beings who had transcended physical form millions of years ago. They had believed that evolution beyond matter made them safe from any physical threat. The aliens proved that even advanced energy beings could be consumed and destroyed. In the depths of the ocean world Aquari, Admiral Kexteran met with the Planetary Council to report on the disaster. His scales had turned permanent black from the trauma of watching his fleet die. The water around him tasted of defeat and desperation. The enemy ships ignore our most powerful weapons, Kexteran reported to the assembled leaders. They move faster than our sensors can track. They coordinate their attacks with perfect precision. Our military doctrine is useless against them. The eldest council member, Ancient Depth, spoke with water currents that carried the weight of centuries. In all our history, we have never faced an enemy we could not understand. These beings fight like a force of nature rather than a military organization. How do we battle a hurricane or negotiate with an earthquake? Kexteran's scales flickered with patterns of desperate hope. There might be one option. The humans have different ideas about warfare. Their rejection by the council means they have no obligation to help us, but they might be our only chance. The chamber filled with currents of shock and outrage. Ancient Depths turned his scales to angry red patterns. The violent primitives who were deemed unworthy of civilization. You would ask barbarians to save us from extinction? Barbarians who might be the only ones crazy enough to find a way to win, Kexteran replied. While the Federation leadership debated asking for human help, Earth was already preparing for war. General Peter Kane stood in a secret facility hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains. The enormous chamber contained the most advanced research and development center humanity had ever built. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock to develop weapons that could fight the alien threat. Dr. Amy Foster approached Kane with a tablet full of technical specifications. We've completed the theoretical work on the quantum disruptor devices. If I'm right about the alien coordination system, these weapons could level the playing field. Kane studied the plans with a soldier's understanding of practical warfare. How do they work? The aliens seem to share information through quantum entanglement networks, Amy explained. Their ships act like parts of a single organism because they literally share consciousness. Disrupt that network and they become isolated individual ships instead of a coordinated fleet. What do you need to build these weapons? Kane asked. Resources we don't officially have and materials that don't officially exist, Amy replied with a slight smile. Good thing we've been preparing for 3 months. Kane activated his communication system and connected with Admiral Susan Blake, who was commanding the hidden supply operations beyond Neptune. Susan, Dr. Foster needs exotic matter and quantum processing units. How much can you spare? Susan's voice crackled through the encrypted channel. Enough to outfit a small fleet if her theory works. We've been building more than just kinetic weapons out here. The alien technology samples that came through our secret channels gave us some interesting ideas. Kane raised an eyebrow. Alien technology samples? Let's just say that when Federation ships get destroyed, some of the pieces drift into neutral space, Susan replied. Amazing what you can learn when you're not bound by diplomatic protocols about studying alien technology. On the outer rim of Federation space, the alien advance continued without pause. System after system fell to the relentless consumption. The beings that called themselves the Devourers had emerged from the space between galaxies after consuming their previous home. They existed only to feed and grow and spread across the universe. Each Devourer ship contained thousands of individual organisms linked into a collective consciousness. They had consumed dozens of galaxies over millions of years. Their technology was built from the combined knowledge of countless extinct civilizations. They had faced every type of military strategy and overcome every defense. The Devourers expected this galaxy to follow the same pattern as all the others. First shock and denial as the local species realized their weapons were useless. Then desperate attempts at negotiation and surrender. Finally, acceptance and consumption as the Devourers absorbed their knowledge and moved on to the next target. But something was different about this galaxy. Analysis of the destroyed Federation fleets showed technology that was advanced, but not innovative. The local species fought with precision and coordination but lacked creativity. Their weapons were powerful but predictable. Everything suggested an easy conquest like all the others. However, deep sensor sweeps detected anomalous readings from a small system near the galactic edge. A young species existed there behind some kind of energy barrier. Their technology was primitive compared to the Federation, but showed unusual characteristics. Most interesting was their apparent isolation from the other local species. The Devourer collective mind decided to ignore the isolated system for now. Young primitive species often destroyed themselves without intervention. Better to focus on consuming the advanced civilizations first and deal with the primitives later. This decision would prove to be their first and most critical mistake. Back on Earth, Colonel Ben Wright received an encrypted message through channels so secret that most governments didn't know they existed. The message came from Admiral Kexterian of the Aquari and contained only a few words. "We need your help. The galaxy is dying." Ben brought the message to President Victoria Hayes, who read it in the Oval Office surrounded by her closest advisors. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The same aliens who had rejected humanity 3 months ago were now begging for help. "What do you recommend?" Victoria asked her assembled cabinet. Secretary of Defense Carl Morgan spoke first. "We should ignore them. They made their choice when they quarantined our system. Let them solve their own problems." General Kane disagreed. "If these aliens consume the entire galaxy, they'll eventually come for Earth. Better to fight them while we have potential allies than face them alone later." Dr. Amy Foster added her scientific perspective. "The enemy technology is beyond anything the Federation possesses, but their methods suggest weaknesses that human tactics might exploit. This could be our chance to test our theories in actual combat." Victoria weighed the options carefully. Earth had spent 3 months preparing for a war that might never come. The quarantine had given them time to develop new weapons and strategies without interference. Now they had the chance to test their preparations against the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced. "Send a reply to Admiral Kexterian," Victoria decided. "Tell him we're willing to help, but we have conditions. Full Federation membership for Earth, complete access to all intelligence about the enemy, and tactical command of any joint operations." Ben smiled as he prepared to send the message. "Think they'll agree to our terms?" "They don't have a choice," Victoria replied. "We're the only ones offering solutions instead of surrender. Sometimes being rejected by the popular crowd means you're the only one left standing when the real test comes." "Captain." Nicole Parker received her orders while commanding a patrol near the edge of the solar system. Her small task force of 6 ships would be humanity's first contact with Federation forces since the quarantine began. They carried the new quantum disruptor weapons and had orders to test them against alien targets. As Nicole's ships prepared to leave Sol Space, she wondered if they were flying toward humanity's greatest victory or its final defeat. Either way, Earth would prove that the Council's rejection had been the biggest mistake in galactic history. Captain Nicole Parker's task force met the surviving Federation ships at the Kepler station near the edge of civilized space. The once mighty starbase now served as a refugee center for ships fleeing the alien advance. Nicole had expected to see damaged vessels and defeated crews, but the reality was far worse. The Federation ships looked like they had been through a nightmare. Proud Vorthak crystal vessels showed stress fractures that would have been impossible under normal combat. Aquari ships leaked precious water into space through hull breaches that seemed to ignore their self-repair systems. The few surviving crew members moved like people who had seen the end of everything they believed in. Admiral Kextarian greeted Nicole in the station's main docking bay. His scales had faded to pale gray and his movements lacked the fluid grace typical of his species. When he spoke, his words carried the weight of absolute defeat. "Captain Parker, I'm grateful that Earth has decided to help us despite our past treatment of your people," Kextarian said. "I must warn you that everything we know about warfare has proven useless against this enemy. They adapt to our weapons instantly and coordinate their attacks with impossible precision." Nicole studied the tactical displays that showed the alien advance. Red markers indicated consumed star systems while yellow ones marked evacuation zones. The pattern looked like a disease spreading through the galaxy's arm. "Admiral, we've brought weapons based on a different approach to combat. Our scientists believe the aliens share some kind of group consciousness that coordinates their actions." Kextarian's scales flickered with faint hope patterns. "Our analysts reached similar conclusions, but we have no way to disrupt such a system. The quantum entanglement frequencies are beyond our technology to interfere with." "That's where human thinking comes in," Nicole replied with a grim smile. "We don't try to match their technology. We break it using methods they won't expect." The first test came sooner than expected. Long-range sensors detected an alien scouting force approaching the Kepler system. 5 enemy vessels were conducting what appeared to be a standard reconnaissance mission. Nicole saw the opportunity to test human weapons under real combat conditions. "All Federation ships withdraw to the outer system," Nicole commanded. "My task force will engage the enemy alone, monitor our attack methods, and be ready to provide support if needed." The alien ships entered normal space near Kepler Station with their usual arrogant confidence. Their dark hulls seemed to absorb light itself, and their impossible geometries hurt human eyes to look at directly. They moved in perfect formation as if controlled by a single mind. Nicole's 6 ships approached from different angles using human military doctrine that emphasized chaos over order. Instead of the neat formations favored by Federation tacticians, the human vessels moved in seemingly random patterns. Their weapons were powered down and their defensive systems appeared offline. "The humans are committing suicide," observed Commander Zilthak of the Vorthak survivors. "They approach without shields or weapons ready. The aliens will destroy them before they can fire a single shot." Admiral Kextarian watched the tactical display with growing anxiety. "Perhaps they have a plan we cannot see. Human military thinking operates by different principles than ours." The alien ships detected the approaching human vessels and moved to intercept. Their weapons charged with energies that could unmake matter itself. The Devourers had destroyed thousands of ships using these same tactics. They expected the primitive human vessels to either flee or die like all the others. At precisely the moment when the aliens prepared to fire, Nicole's task force sprang their trap. The seemingly random movements had positioned each human ship at a specific point around the alien formation. When Nicole gave the command, 6 quantum disruptor devices fired simultaneously. The weapons looked nothing like traditional energy beams or missile strikes. Instead, they created areas of twisted space where the laws of physics seemed to break down. The quantum entanglement networks that connected the alien ships suddenly shattered like breaking glass. For the first time in their existence, the Devourer ships found themselves truly alone. Cut off from their collective consciousness, they lost the perfect coordination that made them nearly invincible. Individual ship commanders who had never made independent decisions struggled to understand what was happening. "Now hit them with everything we have," Nicole ordered. The human ships opened fire with kinetic weapons that had been dismissed as primitive by every Federation species. Tungsten rods accelerated to significant fractions of light speed slammed into alien hulls. Nuclear warheads designed for ship-to-ship combat detonated against shields that were no longer adapting to incoming attacks. The alien vessels tried to respond, but their confusion made effective. Counterattack impossible. Ships that had moved like parts of a single organism now worked against each other. Some tried to retreat while others attempted to advance. Their formation dissolved into chaos as human weapons found targets that could no longer coordinate their defenses. Within 15 minutes, all 5 alien ships had been destroyed. The first Devourer vessels to die in combat, since their species had begun consuming galaxies millions of years ago. Nicole's task force had suffered only minor damage while eliminating an enemy that had proven unstoppable against every other force. The Federation observers could barely believe what they had witnessed. Admiral Kextarian's scales shifted through colors that had no names in any language. "How did you know that would work?" Human military doctrine is based on the assumption that any enemy can be defeated if you find the right weakness, Nicole explained. We don't try to fight fair or follow established rules. We study the problem until we find a solution that works. News of the human victory spread through Federation space faster than the speed of light. For the first time since the alien invasion began, civilized worlds had hope that survival was possible. The message that reached every remaining Federation facility was simple, but revolutionary. The invincible aliens could be beaten. However, the victory also created new problems. Many Federation species that had voted against Earth's membership now demanded immediate human intervention. Others refused to work with the primitive barbarians, even though they offered the only hope for survival. The same prejudices that had led to Earth's rejection now threatened to prevent effective cooperation. Colonel Danny Brooks received orders to establish a joint training facility on the neutral world of Haven Station. His mission was to teach Federation officers how to fight using human military principles. The first lesson proved more difficult than defeating alien fleets. Your tactical doctrine emphasizes order and predictability, Danny explained to a mixed class of alien officers. You move in formation and follow established procedures. That makes you easy targets for an enemy that can predict your actions. Commander Nixara of the crystalline Karani species raised an objection. Order and discipline have served the Federation for 10,000 years. Why should we abandon proven methods for chaotic human tactics? Because your proven methods got 2,000 ships destroyed at Beta Centauri, Danny replied bluntly. The aliens have fought ordered enemies for millions of years. They know exactly how to defeat traditional military thinking. Chaos and unpredictability are the only advantages we have. The training sessions continued for weeks as human instructors tried to teach alien minds how to think like human warriors. Some species adapted quickly to the new concepts. The younger races that had supported Earth's membership proved especially capable students. They learned to use deception and misdirection as weapons. Other species struggled with ideas that went against their fundamental nature. The ancient Vorthak had followed the same tactical principles for millennia and found it almost impossible to embrace disorder. The ethereal beings had transcended physical conflict so completely that they could barely understand the concept of dirty fighting. Captain Kevin Shaw led reconnaissance, missions deep into alien-controlled territory to gather intelligence about enemy capabilities. His small stealth ships used human camouflage technology that worked by being too primitive for alien sensors to detect. While the Devourers scanned for advanced energy signatures, they missed ships that used basic chemical rockets and passive sensors. Kevin's reports revealed the true scope of the threat facing the galaxy. The alien invasion force was only the advanced scouts for a much larger fleet. Millions of Devourer ships waited in the space between galaxies, while their forward elements tested local defenses. If the invasion succeeded, the main fleet would arrive to complete the consumption of all local star systems. More importantly, Kevin discovered the location of the alien command centers. The Devourers had established massive processing stations near the galactic core, where they converted consumed matter into new ships and weapons. These facilities were heavily defended but represented the nerve centers of the entire invasion. Dr. Helen Pierce worked with Kevin's intelligence reports to develop weapons specifically designed to target the alien command network. The quantum disruptors had proven effective against individual ships, but shutting down the entire invasion would require something much more powerful. We need to create a cascade failure in their quantum entanglement grid. The final assault on the galactic core began with the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Admiral Susan Blake commanded ships from every surviving Federation species, alongside the entire operational strength of Earth's military. Human vessels with their brutal kinetic weapons flew beside elegant Aquari ships and massive Vorthak crystal fortresses. For the first time in galactic history, all the civilized races fought as one united force. The journey to the core took 3 weeks through space controlled by alien scout fleets. The human-trained Federation forces used hit-and-run tactics that kept the enemy off balance. Instead of engaging in traditional fleet battles, they struck fast and vanished before the aliens could mount effective counterattacks. Small groups of ships would appear from unexpected directions and destroy isolated enemy vessels before disappearing into the dark between stars. Commander Jake Harrison led one of these harassment forces from the bridge of the rebuilt UES Defiance. His mixed squadron of human and Federation ships had destroyed over 50 alien vessels during the advance without losing a single ship. The key was never fighting fair, and never staying in one place long enough for the enemy to coordinate a response. "Target that command ship with quantum disruptors," Jake ordered as his squadron approached another alien patrol. "Once their coordination breaks down, hit them with everything we have." The attack followed the pattern that had proven successful throughout the campaign. Disrupt the alien command network first, then overwhelm individual ships with weapons they couldn't adapt to quickly enough. The tungsten kinetic rounds fired by human railguns moved too fast for alien defensive systems to track, while Federation energy weapons provided covering fire. As Jake's squadron finished off the last alien ship and prepared to jump away, his communication officer reported an incoming message from Admiral Blake. "Sir, the Admiral says we're approaching the final staging area. All harassment forces are ordered to rendezvous for the main assault." The staging area was a hidden asteroid field, 50 light-years from the galactic core. Thousands of ships gathered in the darkness between dead rocks while their crews prepared for what everyone knew would be the last battle. Intelligence reports showed the alien command center was protected by defensive forces, larger than anything previously encountered. Admiral Blake called a final meeting of all senior commanders in the asteroid field's main facility. The briefing room contained the strangest gathering in galactic history. Human generals sat beside alien admirals while scientists from dozen species worked together on final preparations for weapons that had never been tested under real combat conditions. The Alien Command Center consists of 5 massive processing stations arranged around the galactic core's central black hole. Blake began. Each station is defended by approximately 10,000 enemy ships. "Our entire fleet numbers 8,000 vessels, so we're outnumbered more than 6 to 1. Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembled officers. The odds seemed impossible even with the advantages human tactics had provided. Admiral Kexterian raised a webbed hand to speak. "Admiral Blake, perhaps we should reconsider this assault. Even with our new weapons and tactics, the numerical disadvantage may be too great to overcome." Blake studied the tactical displays showing the alien defenses. "Admiral, we've run every simulation our computers can handle. A conventional assault would fail even if we had twice as many ships. That's why we're not going to fight conventionally." Dr. Helen Pierce stepped forward to explain the final weapon that human scientists had developed. "We've created quantum interference bombs that can cause cascade failures in the alien command network. The problem is they must be detonated inside the alien command station simultaneously. That means 5 separate assault teams must penetrate the most heavily defended positions in the galaxy and plant these devices." The room fell silent as the implications became clear. 5 suicide missions against impossible odds with the fate of the entire galaxy, depending on their success. Jake Harrison was the first to volunteer. "The UES Defiance will take one of the bombs," he said calmly. "We've been fighting these aliens longer than anyone. We know their weaknesses better than most." 4 other captains quickly volunteered their ships for the suicide missions. Captain Nicole Parker would lead the assault on the 2nd station. Commander Kevin Shaw would target the 3rd. Admiral Kexterian insisted on personally leading the attack on the 4th station. The 5th bomb would be carried by Commander Silthak of the Vorthak in their crystal ship Eternal Harmony. The plan called for the main fleet to engage the alien defenses, while the 5 volunteer ships used the confusion to slip through to their targets. Once all bombs were in position, they would detonate simultaneously and hopefully collapse the entire alien command network across the galaxy. Admiral Blake gave the final orders as the fleet prepared to jump to the galactic core. "Remember that we're not just fighting for our own species anymore. Every intelligent being in this galaxy depends on what we do in the next few hours. The aliens may have superior numbers and technology, but they don't have what we have. They don't have hope." The battle for the galactic core began as the largest space engagement in recorded history. 8,000 Federation and human ships emerged from hyperspace to face 50,000 alien vessels arrayed around the 5 command stations. The aliens had been expecting an attack and were ready with defenses that seemed impenetrable. The main fleet attacked in waves using the tactics human instructors had taught Federation crews. Instead of advancing in orderly formations, they came from every direction at once using speed and confusion to avoid complete destruction. Small groups of ships would streak in to Attack specific targets then vanish before the aliens could respond effectively. Admiral Blake coordinated the assault from her flagship while watching the 5 volunteer ships begin their desperate runs toward the command stations. Each bomb carrier faced thousands of enemy vessels protecting targets that represented the nerve centers of the alien invasion. Jake Harrison pushed the UES Defiance through a maze of alien fire toward the first command station. His ship's armor was designed to absorb punishment rather than avoid it, and the hull groaned under impacts that would have destroyed most vessels. His crew worked with desperate efficiency to keep weapons and engines functioning as alien energy beams tried to tear them apart. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported his damage control officer. "Reactor output down to 60%. "Keep us moving," Jake ordered. "We only need to get close enough to deploy the bomb." Around the galactic core, similar scenes played out as the other volunteer ships fought through impossible odds. Captain Nicole Parker's ship lost half its crew when alien weapons punched through her shields. Admiral Kexterian's vessel leaked atmosphere from dozens of hull breaches but kept advancing. Commander Zilthak's crystal ship cracked under stress that would have shattered mountains but continued toward its target. One by one, the volunteer ships reached their objectives. Each team had only minutes to plant their quantum interference bombs before alien reinforcements would overwhelm them. The devices had to be placed precisely inside the alien command centers to create the cascade effect that would shut down their entire network. Jake Harrison was the first to reach his target. The alien command station was a structure larger than Earth's moon, with technology that twisted space around itself. As the UES Defiance approached the station's docking bays, Jake could see the geometric patterns that indicated massive computational processes beyond human understanding. "Bomb is armed and ready for deployment," reported his weapons officer. Timer set for simultaneous detonation with the other teams. Jake activated his communication system for what he knew would be his final transmission. "All teams, this is Harrison. Target 1 bomb is in position. It's been an honor serving with you all." Similar reports came from the other volunteer ships as they reached their targets. Captain Parker confirmed Target 2. Commander Shaw reported Target 3. Admiral Kexterian signaled Target 4. Finally, Commander Zilthak transmitted that Target 5 was ready. Admiral Blake received all 5 confirmations from her position with the main fleet. Around her, the battle continued as human and Federation ships fought desperately to buy time for the bomb teams. Entire squadrons sacrificed themselves to keep alien reinforcements away from the command stations. "All bombs are in position," Blake announced to the fleet. "Detonation in 30 seconds. The countdown seemed to last forever as thousands of ships continued their desperate battle. At 0, the 5 quantum interference bombs detonated simultaneously inside the alien command network. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen, and Blake feared the plan had failed. Then the change began. Across the galaxy, every alien ship suddenly stopped moving in perfect coordination. The quantum entanglement network that had connected millions of individual minds into a single consciousness shattered like breaking glass. Devourer vessels that had acted as parts of a single organism found themselves alone and confused for the first time in their existence. The effect was immediate and devastating. Alien ships began firing on each other as individual commanders panicked without the guidance of the collective consciousness.